Filmmaker Quentin Tarantino dropped by the Joe Rogan Experience this afternoon. It was such a good interview, I want to share a clip. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. Yes, we are a news and commentary channel. I am going to play the clip in question, but bear with me. For fair use laws, I have to set it up. I have to offer my commentary. If you want to see the whole unedited experience, you can go over to Spotify and watch the full 3-hour interviews. From what I was able to hear for the first hour or so, so far it was fantastic. But there was a section in the interview I wanted to break down, and I went and actually trimmed this. I edited this clip to make it more, to repurpose it, but also sort of condense the point that Tarantino was trying to make. And I think it's an important one. So I want to bring this up because it's sort of calling out cancel culture and not letting cancel culture win. I want to play it and get your thoughts. I'm going to offer my commentary here, but let's start this clip in question. They were talking about Tarantino is such a film lover. He's talking about how Bill Murray movies were always loved more by critics than Chevy Chase movies. And Chevy Chase always played sort of a jerk through and through from the beginning to the end. He never really learns his lessons. And they talk about sort of comedies in general, and that's when Joe Rogan begins to make this point.
There's a lot of those films that you try to watch today and you go, Jesus, I don't know if you could ever do this. Like, I just watched Superbad the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I don't even know if you could do Superbad today. And that's not even that long ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't believe in that kind of statement because the thing about it is, I think that statement is a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
If you say it's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem. All right, because it comes with usually the idea, well, I don't know if they would let you do that. Well, who the fuck is they?
Well, you say that as
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino, but if you're Quentin Tarantino in 1991...
Well, okay, yeah. Well, I'm Quentin Tarantino in 1991 doing Reservoir Dogs coming off of the 80s,
Right.
which was the decade of they won't let you do that.
That's true.
And by the way, we're going through the 80s part 2 right now.
Right
except
now.
except there's more of a McCarthy-esque blacklist aspect to it than was in the 80s. The 80s seemed very... People were doing it to themselves. Where here it's, no, people are doing it to you.
I want to pause it just because I want to offer some thoughts as we went, and we're going to go back to this clip because I've trimmed it a bit because there's two things interesting here. It's interesting to see Joe like sort of be, yeah, no, this thing exists, and then quickly Tarantino's like, no, it doesn't, and Joe's very quickly like, yeah, you're right. It's funny how sort of people, seemingly authorities, can have their minds changed when they speak to someone else who is more of an authority. And I don't say that. I don't think I see some people saying Tarantino just stopped cancel culture in front of Joe Rogan. And I don't think Tarantino did that. Tarantino is acknowledging it's even worse now. There's a blacklist level approach to it. But he is sort of acknowledging the fact, like, which I had to learn the hard way of, they can't cancel you if we don't let them cancel you. We have this new world we live in where society is deciding what we can watch and trying to stop things from being made. And the reality is we, the consumers, don't have to let them. We can continue to consume and buy those products. And so Tarantino knows from experience because the 80s were a very similar time. And here's his explanation of sort of how the 80s did it.
The 80s, this is only happening in America. In the other countries, they were making bold, wild cinema. The Hong Kong movies were off the chart.
Facts.
Pedro Almodovar had a movie called Matador with Antonio Banderas that came out. Very funny movie. The movie starts, the opening credits is a guy sitting in a chair in his living room with his pants down.
I had to edit
and he's
this.
jerking off to the most bloody, violent scenes in slasher movies. And that's the opening credits. And it's just like, there was like nothing like that available in America. They're like, oh my God, this is the wildest shit ever, man. This is amazing. And so I remember I was like sitting at Video Archives and I was saying, well, I want to do shit like that when I'm making movies. And then one of the guys said, well, they won't let you, Quentin. And my answer was, well, who's they? Who are they to tell me what I can and can't do? And at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. I never let they stop me. I did what I wanted to do. And by doing what I wanted to do, we changed the 90s.
Facts. You can't let them stop you. And the reality is he's about to express it. Think about it. Think about in that early 90s around that Tarantino phase, all of the films that came out trying to copy his style, copy that sort of gangster noir, sort of pop culture-y vibe, uber violent style that he did.
The 90s stopped being politically correct. And all of a sudden, like in 1 year, Reservoir Dogs, El Mariachi, Man Bites Dog, Romeo is Bleeding. I mean, all these like wild, wild, ironic violent movies started coming out that just didn't exist in 1989.
It's so true.
And then comes Seven, and then it's like we built a bridge, and then everyone followed it. Everyone went over the bridge.
I think he's taking credit for he does in the interview. He sort of talks about how his style, his Pulp Fiction, sort of, and Reservoir Dogs created the genre that everyone copied, and he's right. I actually really am a fan of Tarantino, but he also goes on to sort of acknowledge the fact, because Joe Rogan's like, did you ever get upset that people were copying your style? And, he does acknowledge he was borrowing a lot from the spaghetti westerns and sort of putting it into the gangster genre. Look, people have accused Tarantino of cribbing a lot of styles and even flat out movies, right? Was it Hard Boiled, I think? There's a Asian film that he did borrow a lot from with Reservoir Dogs. And so it's like, I forget which one. Sorry, correct me in the comments down below. You guys will be even more film experts than I am. But the reaction is Tarantino has borrowed a lot because he's a film lover. He's borrowing things and sort of adjusting genres to sort of create his own genre. So it's ripping him off is sort of ironic because he ripped other people off, but he does sort of acknowledge that in the interview. I highly encourage you to go watch the full Tarantino interview because he's a smart guy, and I do think he knows what he's doing. At the same time, he's taking credit for a lot of, like, saying all the violence films of the 90s were due to him. There might be a little bit of an ego there, but at the same time, I think he's right. We forget history. We forget the fact that we've been through these cycles before. And the 80s was a very tough time. Even through the early 90s. I remember the days of Tipper Gore and the parental censorship on music, NWA, all this stuff. There was a lot of sort of censorship and problems then as well for what's safe and suitable for our children. We've been up and down through these times. And I think, culture and our content flourished, and we got some amazing, crazy, out there content, art. And nowadays, we're starting to get back into more of an area of sensitivity, if you will. And as Tarantino has put it in another, he did an interview with Bill Maher, you can go check out as well, this McCarthyism era of blacklisting, which is what we're doing, where social media mobs, these mob mentalities of, some call them the woke mobs, whatever you want to call them, but these people sort of want to deem that this content isn't suitable. Is where the problem is there. So I think Tarantino is just spot on. Don't let them or anybody say you can't make the content. Make your art and let it flourish. And I think we are going to see, I see positive in this, and I think his comments there, and that's why I want to share this clip. I think we are on the other end of the weights shifting back, where now is the time more than ever to create what you want to create. Whatever content you want to make it. Don't be afraid of, you can't make Superbad right now. The truth is they did. They made Good Boys. They've made a few comedies of recent. Not as successful maybe, but they've been out there. They've attempted to make raunchy comedies still to this day. And I think we have to be now more than ever. I think that's what audiences really do want. At the end of the day, the receipts will solve that problem. If people go spend money to see more movies, raunchy movies, violent movies, etc., movies that are unafraid to sort of just do what they want, I do think the audiences will eventually react. It's time for the tide to turn. So I think Tarantino is right. It's not that you can't make a Superbad right now. It's that you're letting them control you and your worry, and too many people in Hollywood, Joe Rogan included, who are afraid of these people. The people. Stop being afraid of the people. Make the content, make the art. The audience will always find the best content always rises up top. And while we're going through a bit of a problem right now, I do think the term of cancel culture is real. I do think it's being overused. And I do think it's impossible to be canceled if you let them cancel you. That is a fact. So together we can unite and we can make the content great again. That's what we need to focus on. In fact, I hope someone out there is watching will be inspired by that, by his quote, by all of this, by the things we try to put in this channel to go out there and make it. Stop talking about it. Stop being afraid of it. Just go make it. I assure you there are people out there that will want to see this type of content. We want new Tarantinos to step up and inspire us. What do you guys think? If you like coverage like this and everything, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for all alerts, and smash that like button. Also, I want to see your comments down below. What do you think of Tarantino? What do you think of this interview on the Joe Rogan Experience? Were you a fan? Are you still watching Joe? This was one that made me go over to Spotify and watch because I was very fascinated. In fact, I'm going to go finish the interview right now. There's an interesting bit about Harvey Weinstein that I will probably probably also post here or another channel, so stay tuned. I'll adjust this end screen at the end to include it. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to be live tonight every Tuesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so join us today. Thanks, everybody.